So I think we'll go ahead and start. We actually have a couple more people on the call than I thought we would have today, so that's really great. For those of you who haven't joined us for a meeting yet, if you have watched the recordings, you'll be able to sort of pop right back in with what we're going to be talking about today. If you haven't, Shannon and I can try to cover some general content of what we've covered so far. And if you do have time and you want to watch the recordings, feel free. If that does not interest you, I totally understand. And I think that, you'll be able to catch up pretty easily here today. So what I'd like to do is, for those of you who haven't joined us before, I'd love to do some introductions. So if you are Pitzer staff, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Let everyone know kind of what you do at Pitzer and maybe what you're most excited about for Alumni Weekend. And then for those of you who are alumni, if you just want to introduce yourself, let us know your class year, how many times you've attended Alumni Weekend in the past, and sort of what you're looking forward to being a reunion volunteer. So I'll go ahead and start. So I'm Leslie Garrettsy. I'm the one who's been emailing everyone. I work in the advancement office at Pitzer. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Programs. And this will be my first Alumni Weekend at Pitzer. I started in March earlier this year. And so had been doing some planning for Alumni Weekend 2022. And then of course it got canceled sort of kind of at the last minute. So I'm really looking forward to my first Alumni Weekend. So I will popcorn over to Jill.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jill Hawthorne, and I'm the Associate Director of Family Engagement in the Advancement Office. And I'm also class of 87. And in a previous life, I was in the Dean of Students office. That's how I've got to know some alumni today. So good to see everybody. Am I popcorning?
Yes,
I wanted to, Sam, if you can talk.
I am class of 08. I've gone to, I think, just one alumni event so far, and I recently moved back to Claremont, which is why I thought it'd be a good idea to help out, or that I might be able to help out more than others in some ways. And I work just up the road at Holiday Rock in Upland. That's pretty much all I got. I work in sustainability. Loved my time at Pitzer. Haven't been back to campus in, I don't know, like 4 months. Whenever I first moved, I checked it out, but I haven't really been back since. So it'd be cool to go back.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Do you want to pick someone else to go next?
Sumesh.
Sure. Thank you, Sam. So hi, everyone. My name is Sumesh Sivapoti. I graduated in 2018 from Pitzer College. So in 2013, sometime in September, I just happened to click an article by Andrew Perez in Facebook. And I just, wrote an email to him, hoping that he will never reply. He replied. And, that's how I ended up in Pitzer College, out of sheer coincidence. After graduating from college, I try to live with Pitzer values by, writing articles for various publications around the world. So, I write for why there should not be, nuclear war. Recently, I wrote for Designation magazine on how Roe v. Wade impact reproductive freedom, not only in America, but in developing countries all around the world. So that's how I try to, advocate for a more peaceful, more just world. I am interested in becoming a volunteer because, it just feels, seeing all of you here, even in this screen, feels like a home. It's like, even though I don't know many of you personally yet, but, it just feels it's a good feeling. Feels homey. So I'm very excited to be a volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For those of you just joining, we're just going around and doing introductions. So your name, your class year, what you're looking forward to being a volunteer or why you wanted to volunteer, and how many alumni weekends you've been to. So Sumesh, do you want to pick someone else from the group to go next?
Sure. Shannon?
Yes, thank you so much, Sumesh, and welcome everyone. I'm Shannon Speckertelli, and I'm the Interim Executive Director for Alumni and Family Engagement and Annual Giving. And I rejoined Pitzer this past summer, but this is my second time around here at the college. I was here back in 2006 to 2008. And what I'm most excited about is getting to know each of you and hear about your Pitzer experience and what you love about Pitzer, and some of the traditions and how we can kind of bring some of those back and incorporate them into our programming at Alumni Weekend. And I will popcorn over to Melinda.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree about reviving some of those traditions. I'm Melinda Henning. I'm from one of the founding classes, the class of 1968. And we have a small tribe of us that have been meeting regularly and have set up a regular meeting schedule between now and the reunion date to brainstorm ideas about how to make the reunion meaningful, both for everybody, but in the community, but also for our class with the institutional memory of what it was like in really the early days. And we're especially interested in making that connection between the values that we tried to articulate, or I would even go so far as to say originate and articulate, and how we can make the bridge between then and now. I mean, every time I get involved in a Pitzer event, I am so grateful for how the community has endorsed and expanded upon the original values of a learning community, an inclusive learning community. So that's what gets me excited. I'm really happy to be here, and we hope that we can make a big contribution to the reunion weekend.
Thanks so much, Melinda. Do you want to pick someone else?
Oh, sure. How about Nancy? Have you spoken yet?
Oh, Nancy, I think you have to come off
You
mute
have to
real
unmute
quick.
yourself.
Class of 72, I'm Nancy Buell. And I'm just, Sarah invited me in. I hope it's okay to jump in partway through this. I'm especially interested in working with the, whatever you call our original group, the Trailblazers, I think, and Pathfinders, or Founding Mothers. And so I live in Oakland. I don't know what else to. Oh, I've been to one reunion before, which was fun, but I'm up in the Bay Area, and I'd like to reconnect in a way, sort of pick up where I left off when I left Pitzer.
That's great. We're very happy to have you join. So thanks for joining, Nancy. Do you want to pick someone else to go next?
Sarah?
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah Smith. I live in Santa Cruz. I was in the second class at Pitzer, graduating in 1966. There were 10 of us in my class. And anyway, I've been involved in a couple of reunions since I graduated, but not a lot. Pitzer just created opportunities for me that were incredible. And they worked with me, my professors. I was in anthropology and sociology. And in 1965, in the spring, they let me spend a semester at Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I ended up integrating an all-Black college in Tuscaloosa in 1965. And it was just huge to be part of the social justice movement on such a grassroots level, and just set me on a trajectory around social justice. And it just was really amazing. And I just am so grateful. And so I love that there's this group, the women of the 60s is sort of the group that I'm getting to be part of now. And it was such an amazing time. And I think I'm interested in finding ways to be part of the community with current students. And so I've been suggesting that some of us come earlier, like on the Monday before the weekend, and be integrated into the community and offer opportunities to connect with current students. And it's an exciting time, I think, to see what we can do to support each other, to move things forward. And Nancy and I worked in Florida on behalf of Nancy Muxel Powell, who,
Debbie.
Debbie, what did I say?
Yeah.
Nancy. Anyway,
Yeah.
who went to Congress for 2 years. And she was a Pitzer alumni, and we were really excited to support her. So I'm hoping that we can do all kinds of interesting things to talk about the values that we hold and how to act on them. Who else hasn't spoken yet? Joan.
Actually, I made phone calls for Debbie.
Oh, wow.
In the last election round. I figured, well, there's somebody I can support. She's a Pitzer alum as well. Actually, Nancy and I were in the same class. We'll have to go back and look at our yearbooks. We probably looked a little different 50 plus years ago, the class of 72. And I've been back for 1 or 2 reunions and stayed in touch a little bit over the years, mostly with Alan Greenberger before he passed away. But those of our era would remember him. And I'm honestly so glad to see Pitzer clearly working hard and in a very organized way to reconnect alums. It feels like that's kind of been missing from the picture for a while. And I think it's can be such a key part of the college community, not only for interacting with students, but for the long-term financial well-being of the college as well. And I think that's an important part of what I think we in our age group have to provide as our legacy to all that we've received from the community. And I think, Robin?
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Letters, and I was with Melinda the day Pitzer opened its front doors for the first class to go all the way through on 4 years. So we graduated in 1968. And Sarah, I'm so interested to hear your story. Even though we were at Pitzer at the same time, I didn't know that you were having this incredible experience. So here we are 55 years later. Fascinating. And I think partly, maybe that's what I love about getting together with Pitzer alums. Everyone has such an interesting, fascinating story that is unique in many different ways. So I live in San Luis Obispo. So I'm about 2 or 3 hours north of Claremont. And I think I've gotten to most of the reunions, certainly the big ones. The last one, the 50th, well, that wasn't really the last one, but it was significant to realize that we were all 50 years older than when the day we graduated. So I'm happy to be a part of this, and Lynn, whatever thoughts from a standpoint of having been here since the day the school opened. So thanks very much for including me.
Thanks so much, Robin. I think of alumni, we have Mitchell left. Mitchell, can you unmute and introduce yourself? Brooke, how about you introduce yourself? We'll see if we can come back to Mitchell.
Hey everyone, I am Brooke Butler. I'm the coordinator for Alumni and Family Engagement and Annual Giving, and I am excited to help plan the first in-person alumni weekend in 4 years, 3 years? 3 years, I think. Anyways, yeah.
All right. Mitchell, are you able to unmute? Okay, no worries. All right, so we are going to get started. Like I said in my email, the bulk of today's meeting is going to be kind of brainstorming as a group. Obviously, the whole group isn't here today, but we will be sure to brainstorm in a future meeting as well. And I can also receive folks' ideas between meetings so that we can make sure everyone's ideas are heard and shared and considered for alumni weekend. But before we get into that, I'm going to have Shannon talk a little bit more about volunteer roles. Some of this will be a little bit of what we've discussed in previous meetings, but with so many folks joining for the first time today, I think it'll be helpful to review together as well.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. And first, I just want to say it's so exciting to just watch the reconnection just across the committee and know that the work that we're doing here is, we're going to create this experience for so many other alumni during a reunion and alumni weekend. So just really excited for the energy and the enthusiasm that this group has. For some who have joined the previous meetings, we've talked a little bit about the different roles on the committee. And what I want to share today is that wherever you are, right, and wherever your interests are, there is a place for you on the committee. And so if you're interested in, developing the programming, class-specific programming or general programming, or you're really looking to rally the class, do some of the outreach and help bring some of your classmates back to campus for the reunion, or you're interested in really focusing on the reunion giving piece and how your class can help give back to Pitzer. Regardless of where your interests are, there is a place for you on this committee. And for some, you might enjoy doing a little bit of each of those. And so what I wanted to share today is that there are a lot of different roles that you can serve on the committee. And, whether you're able to give, an hour a week or an hour a month, right? We're looking for all levels of support. So I wanted to share that because I know some folks are joining, this meeting. It's the first time kind of stepping into some of the reunion planning discussions. And so if you're kind of thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I'm really, if I want to stay on or what this is about, know that there are going to be many opportunities to engage and to be involved at many different levels. And again, different time commitments that you feel comfortable with. The other thing I wanted to share is that, in many ways, we're really kind of laying the foundation for reunions and building out the committee. So a lot of the work that we're doing this year is going to serve us 5 years from now when you're coming back for your next reunion. So, this is such an important time, I think, to be part of this effort and rallying your classes to come back. And again, we're really trying to create that foundation. And we want to create an experience for you where you want to come back. So, we'd love to see the same group come back for the next reunion and really be a part of these committees as we go forward. So I'm going to pause there and just see if there are any questions as far as the different volunteer roles and responsibilities. Any questions or thoughts? Hi, Nancy.
Hi, this is not a question, but I forgot to mention that because I didn't plan it, I didn't know about this meeting very far in advance. I have somebody coming to the house. I might have to get off the phone.
Oh, no.
At some point in the morning, I don't know when they're going to come, the repair person. Thanks.
Thanks for letting us know.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, Sarah.
Now, which class is having their actual 50th? Is that the class of 72 or 73?
So the 50th, I believe, is part of the Trailblazers. Is that correct, Leslie?
Yeah. The actual class with the 50th, forgive me, because reunion math is very difficult for my brain for some reason, but 50 years would be 73 is 50 years. And then 68, 55.
68 is 55.
Thank you, Brooke. But we are wanting to, because the last few alumni weekends haven't happened, we are wanting to make sure that sort of, 72 hit 50th during COVID, 71, 70. So that's why we took the approach of the Pitzer Trailblazers, and that being sort of 73 and earlier, to make sure that with COVID, a lot of connection was obviously lost and just not happening in this same like in-person alumni weekend way. And so the intention of having, sort of all of those classes highlighted through 73 as Pitzer Trailblazers was to make sure that those who weren't able to celebrate their 50th in person the last couple of years can still be, we can, there's space to highlight and honor everyone's milestones, I feel.
And I think that even like when our 50th was, I don't think there was just any attention to it because it was small. So it didn't have to do with COVID, but it had to do with just the culture of the community not putting any thought to doing anything there.
Sure.
And the class of 68 was the first official 50th anniversary celebration.
Louise, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm
I feel
sorry, I
like
was busy on some other stuff.
that's okay. I feel like most folks probably know you, but you did miss introduction. So would you mind introducing yourself, your class year, what you're looking forward to with Alumni Weekend, and kind of what you see your role as a volunteer is?
I'm Louise Thornton, Louise Bodette Thornton, class of 1968, charter class. And hi, Joan. I've been going to reunions since they started, so I'm kind of in the groove, and I always like to show up, especially for my 5 years, but in between as well. So it's just part of being Pitzer, and it's a community. And my role as a volunteer is to get as many of my class and the women of the 60s to celebrate with on campus.
Wonderful. Thanks, Louise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we dive into brainstorming for Alumni Weekend, is there anything else anyone wants to ask about, mention, anything else we want to touch on before we get into the brainstorming? All right. Okay, so I think that, of course, a little bit of structure is helpful sometimes, but I don't think that this has to be a super structured brainstorming session. But what I tried to do in advance of this meeting was sort of send out, if you were able to check your email. If not, I'm going to actually share my screen real quick so that we can all kind of look at this document that I sent out. So Shannon or Brooke, are we seeing the right document with the orange? Okay, great, thanks. So what this document is and what its intent is, I've made a couple of changes to it just so I can take notes during this meeting. But I wanted to identify what is planned to be happening. So meals, a couple of receptions that have been confirmed already. And so that's sort of almost like the milestones of our structure for the weekend, but then also identify planning opportunities where we can really, as reunion volunteers, give us your ideas, help us kind of plug in the stuff on campus for the schedule. And so I'll review the planned programming first. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger just so it's easier for everyone to see and we're not seeing so much white space. So on Friday, the planned programming that we have confirmed with Nigel Boyle, the Fulbright reception. So that will happen on Friday afternoon, evening. We've confirmed with Scripps and Harvey Mudd that we'll do the 3C wine tasting, which has been traditional for, I'm actually not sure for how long, but for at least the last several years of Alumni Weekend. And then of course, there will be a community dinner. On Saturday, it'll be a community brunch or lunch, just sort of depending on what menu we select for that. A community dinner, of course, and then the Alumni Awards. So this is, we're looking forward to this. It hasn't happened the last couple of years because of COVID. Awards have been given, but honoring with a ceremony or reception hasn't happened. This seems to sometimes take place prior to dinner, via like a reception type situation, or sometimes during dinner. So that hasn't been determined yet, but we will definitely be bringing the Alumni Awards back. And then on Sunday, we'll definitely do a community brunch. As I was looking back at some of the last few years of programming, it looks like this is an opportunity for some cross-college involvement, maybe coordinating with a couple of the other colleges who are having Alumni Weekend the same weekend as we are. But regardless, there will be some sort of brunch on Sunday before the close of Alumni Weekend. So that's sort of what we have set, and those are kind of like the timing milestones that we can look to as we try to plug in our ideas for programming in between and before those things. Down here in planning opportunities, I went ahead and took a note while I believe it was you, Sarah, who mentioned like coming early and having some kind of ability to integrate or experience with current students. So I did jot that down as a note. I think that's definitely something that we can put together and plan for. I think it's a great idea. I think current students would love it. And I think it's a great way to reconnect. So I've put that down as an idea. And then as we go here, again, there's a lot of structure in this. It doesn't have to be this structured in this conversation, but the idea here was me sort of outlining where we can plug in content or programming between kind of those meals and those receptions that we already have planned. So on Friday, we'd be looking at a late afternoon or pre-dinner opportunity, as well as a late night opportunity. On Saturday, sort of pre-lunch or brunch, post-lunch, late afternoon, pre-dinner, and then late night. And then on Sunday, sort of a pre-lunch or brunch opportunity. So we don't have to get into the specifics of timing if we don't want to, but it is mapped out in that way. And then I just kind of threw out some ideas here. So I'll stop talking now and open it up to the group. And I'll sort of take notes of what kind of ideas or options you might think would be great for us to try to coordinate on campus and put some puzzle pieces together for the schedule. So if anyone wants to, we're a smallish group, just unmute and throw out some ideas and we can talk about it as a group.
So Leslie, this is Robin speaking.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. One of the things I see here is a lot of emphasis on including the other colleges in our events. I know personally that one or two of those events might be interesting, but generally my preference would be to spend more time on the Pitzer campus with my fellow alumni and current students, as opposed to interacting too much with the other campuses. So I just wonder what other people on the committee feel about that, whether we should be emphasizing the community involvement or staying on the Pitzer campus.
I think that's a great question. I'd love to hear the same.
Leslie,
Yes, Sarah, go for it.
can we take the white part, stop sharing the screen so I can see people better?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
If you see me looking this way, I'm looking at my other screen so I can type up notes.
Okay.
But yes, thank you.
I'll just give my 2 cents that I think it's great when we can connect with other members of the 5C community. But I only saw the one event, the 3C wine tasting, that seemed like it was really about connecting with others. So I probably missed the others that you're talking about, Robin.
I had the general feeling there were more than just the wine tasting, but that may be, I assume the word community. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Leslie, maybe you can fill us in.
So what I do have confirmed is the 3C wine tasting with Scripps and Harvey Mudd. The other thing that I kind of noted was, sorry, Robin, to your question, when I've typed community, to me, that's like Pitzer community. So maybe that's where it was kind of looking like it was more 5C or something like that. The only other thing that I did think might be an opportunity for cross-college involvement, because it looks like it has been in the past, was the brunch on Sunday. It looks like in the past there was like a mariachi brunch at Scripps campus. And so that was the only other one that I really identified as cross-college involvement. But I think it's an interesting conversation to have for sure.
Historically, those are the only two, unless there's a sports event, and then we're associated, of course, with Pomona. So, but those are the only two events on Sunday or on Friday afternoon that I remember. I'm sure there are other opportunities at times, but those are the two historically done.
Melinda, you have your hand raised.
I go back to, I hope that we will articulate our driving principles when we make these decisions about what the activities are. In our Women of the 60s group, we've boiled it down to meaningful connection, conversation, community, and continuity. And I think my colleagues would agree with me that we mean that to be campus Pitzer specific, and that right now in this time, this particular reunion, we have a special opportunity and maybe even a responsibility to re-energize all the bridges that we can make across and around all of the constituents, I guess you would call them, in our community, that we want those connections so much, and we only have 3 days, 2.5 days, that I think that it's worth looking at this particular time and how can we strengthen the Pitzer community and make cross connections within our ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm
Very
going
well
to
articulated.
go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I think this is I like what Melinda's talking about. And I think that this is an opportunity that's really fantastic to try and get all of this trailblazer group back together again. And what I think of is, it really seems to me to look at talking to someone in the film department about getting student volunteers to video interviews with the trailblazers and have that be added to the collection. And I helped recently with a movie called The Boys Who Said No, about the draft resistors of the 60s. And it originated out of just interviews that someone wanted to have happen of these different draft resistors. And it became a movie. You can look it up online, The Boys Who Said No. But it's so inspiring to see and to bridge the young students who are in the film school wanting to think about documentaries, to have them team up with different alumni from the Trailblazers group and have there be a document about all the different things that people have done. I think that would be really fantastic.
It sounds like it would be a good option to almost have like an oral history project happening throughout the weekend. So maybe we have like a classroom or a booth set up with, video, audio recording, and have an open invitation to folks to come in. And maybe there's some prompts that can start, like get people started who may be a little more shy or something like that, but really take advantage, to your point, Sarah, of having folks in the same place at the same time and really try to document that history of Pitzer. And I feel like that can kind of tie into, Melinda, the slogan or motto that you mentioned earlier about, I wrote it down, meaningful connection, conversation, community, and continuity, especially. I love that idea.
Leslie, that happens to be standard. Well, in the past, it's always been standard procedure to have several places on campus where there are the opportunities to ask alumni who are returning and continue the oral history project that began in 1963, or four actually, when we came to campus. But the other thing that I'm thinking, and I'll be meeting with a member of the student affairs on Thursday when I'm up there, about interaction with the students, not just alums. We're going to be in many opportunities to communicate as a group anyway, but one of the things the women of the 60s are talking about is meeting the students and having that kind of interaction. And so I'm going to be meeting with Vince Greer and discussing his ideas on that project, because apparently the students would like to meet us.
Wow.
Joe, you have your hand raised.
Louise, in some cases, we're their grandparents.
We are.
There should be our grandson has a friend who's at Pitzer as a student. I was going to, you mentioned the oral history project, and that brought to mind that somewhere I have a cassette, old technology, but a cassette of an interview with, I think, Werner Wurmbrunn,
Right.
from the oral history project. And that, obviously we're not going to sit there all day and listen to cassettes, but somehow bringing back some of that oral history that's already been collected in a way that both could be sort of memory lane for some of us and an opportunity for other generations to learn more about what happened in those early years. And I'm always interested in hearing from faculty, and also in this case, our immediate past president, Melvin Oliver, who is very much of the age cohort of those of us from the 60s and 70s. Literally, he didn't go to Pitzer, but he's of that same age cohort. And then to have come to Pitzer much later in life and led Pitzer at a very difficult time. If there's any opportunity to hear from him, I would find that fascinating.
Yeah, can I just back up what Joan just said, Leslie? I think there is so much available history and documentation of our early classes. It would be interesting to have some of that available somehow for us to see and students to see.
I agree. I think that's definitely something we can look into on our end to get access to that and come up with a way that makes sense to be able to share that with as many folks who want to hear. Melinda.
Well, in line with that, we were really happy with the archivist working on, what is her name? Stacy, I think.
Stacy.
Yeah.
Elliott.
Did a really terrific assembly of the early years and provided a display for our class of 68 50th. However, it was displayed in a small room that didn't have access. And, if we're talking about connections between then and now, a big exhibit that's really accessible, maybe in the art gallery, which could also be an event space with all of this history and richness surrounding it, to help us have conversations about making the connection between then and now. And in line with your idea, Leslie, about possibly having like a booth set up or something where we could go in and be interviewed or say our piece, sort of like StoryCorps or something like that. It's a cool idea. I would suggest, if we do something like that, that we do put a little bit of structure on it. If we have the theme of community and continuity, what would be, I think, fascinating for current students, especially, I think, to see would be if we who are coming for a reunion would say something specific about what we took with us from the Pitzer experience, and then very specifically, what have we done with it? as Sarah says, it's kind of invisible what a lot of us have accomplished up to this point. And I think I would like to hear from people in more depth about what has been their work based on what they brought with them from Pitzer.
In addition to that, Melinda, one of the other points we talked about was why did you come to Pitzer? Because that's fascinating to know why. I know why I came to Pitzer, but it was a brand new school. Why are people coming now? I mean, U.S. News and World Report. I mean, but really, is that the only reason you're coming to Pitzer? I mean, oh,
interesting.
This past summer, we, Jill, Shannon, Brooke, and I, and some other members of the team went out and did welcome receptions for incoming students and their families to kind of meet people from their area of the country who are also coming to Pitzer. And U.S. World and News was not mentioned once in their reasons for why they're coming to Pitzer. So I agree. I think that would be a really great, substantial thing to share with others, and to kind of look through over the years of how it evolves, or does it stay the same, or how many connective threads are there through intentions in coming to Pitzer from the 60s to now. I think it'd be really great. Sumesh shared a really interesting story about why he came to Pitzer earlier at the beginning of the meeting. So, I mean, I think it's great. Wonderful. There was one other thing. This is an idea that I had, and I am not an alumni, but has anyone ever heard of the Moth Podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I have in my mind, like at the Grove House, like a Moth style, like Pitzer themed storytelling. Basically what the Moth Podcast is it's recordings of live events mostly, and they're held all across the world. And it's basically it's like open mic, but for stories. And folks can just come up and tell a story about, generally it's about anything. And then the podcast kind of tries to group them together in an episode with like connective themes. But I wonder if there's like a Pitzer story time almost, like Moth style, open mics style, could be really fun to share. And if we could even record that, that might be neat, and, have snacks and
I love that idea. It won't surprise you to know that I love that idea. I'm involved in a project with another organization right now that's all about the fact that the stories we tell ourselves define us. This is an organization like Pitzer who's kind of in a cultural transition, and we've been destabilized, and we need to get back on our core values again. And so we're telling stories about when things were just right, and we find that those stories, because they're in story form, they're more sticky, more interesting, more compelling for people to listen to, but they are also remembered and passed down. And as a result of that, the values that are illustrated in these stories become the culture. So I'm really big on this. I would just say, however, for a reunion event like this, the preparation of people knowing what's the time limit, what is the focus, in a very gentle way, really makes it. And I'll just add, a few weeks ago, I helped my husband plan his 50th reunion from the company, which is the 200 people, but only 20 people showed up, but that he was closest to when he was in the Naval Academy. So this is a military organization. These guys, they're all men, graduate with aeronautical engineering degrees and things like that. They're not that big on storytelling and sharing their feelings. It had never been done before in a reunion. But my husband and I decided we wanted to get to know he wanted to get to know these people better, even 50 years later. And it was so successful. But we think the success of it was in the pre-marketing. My husband kept saying, you have to write an email about what makes a good story. tell people they have to have a good opening line and it has to have a point and all that. I'm going, no, I'm not doing any kind of direction or instruction, but just a gentle, I could share with you the 3 emails that we used to get people interested in this idea. And it was great. We focused it on keepers. We told people, we know that you have lots of memorabilia and there's crowding your attic and so forth. And you look through it and you think, oh, I don't need to keep this anymore. Or, oh, but you know, here's something, I just don't want to throw this away. And you look at it and you wonder, why is it a keeper? And it's always because there's some story attached. And so people brought their keepers and told the stories about their keepers, and it turned out to be stories about values. So it was a lot of fun. That's just an idea.
I love it. And I'll definitely take a look at your emails that you used with those gentle parameters.
Okay,
if that's something that we move
I'll
forward
send
with
you.
for sure.
I'll send you, yeah.
Thank you.
Along the lines of recording and filming and stuff, I would like to see as many of the events recorded for others who are unable to attend, anybody who's interested, but most specifically those who are unable to attend. I mean, we're talking about the class of 68 having a 55th reunion, which puts us age-wise in the upper 70s. And you know, there are going to be people who are from now on, if not before, who are unable to come for whatever reason, because they're all the way across the country, or because they have the disability or an impairment, you know, but they'd like to share, they'd like to know.
I really love that idea. In my time at Pitzer, I've learned that recording and sharing later is much more foolproof than trying to live stream. So I think that I think that we should definitely go ahead and try to record as much as possible and be able to share it after the fact. And we can even kind of update the Alumni Weekend website after with almost like the schedule and then links to recordings for as many of the sessions as we're able to record. I love that. Joan, are you leaving? Okay, thank you so much for joining. It was great to see you finally after so much email. So take care. All right, so we do have about 9 minutes left. This conversation will absolutely continue. This is not the one and only time we're having this conversation. This is a huge part of your involvement as reunion volunteers. So this will absolutely continue. Does anyone have maybe a final idea that we can discuss? And then I have just a couple of reminders and then we'll close right at 11.
Could you put that slide up again that shows the time blocks?
Yes. It has a lot of my notes on it. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I think that Trailblazer group, it seemed to me that there was an interest in having a meeting or a meal with the president at some point with all of the Trailblazers that can come. I don't know if that got thrown out there as trying to find a time. Maybe it's breakfast, I don't know, but sometime where we all get together. Is that right, Louise and Melinda?
Well, that was why I wanted to see that time block thing and see where the openings are. Like you've got.
Let me share that. It looks like Nancy may be leaving. Nancy, thank you for joining. We'll see you soon.
Bye, Nancy.
Nancy, nice to see you.
Okay. So I've just been jotting all of my notes, but here's sort of can everyone see the time block?
Yes.
Great.
But okay, these are just ideas.
Isn't Friday, Friday night has traditionally, since ours, would be the dinner with the class whose 50th it is, and in this case, it might be a few more students, or, you know, the other 2 classes or 3 classes. So that would be Friday night. So that should be on here somewhere. Oh, there it goes. You're good.
I think you want to put it up
Right on there.
You don't want it late night though, do you?
No.
Oh no, that would be a dinner. Okay.
Yeah.
I will clean these up and share it with the group right now.
Oh,
The notes are going to be in the the messy brain of Leslie, but I'll clean them up for everyone.
And I know that the class of 68 very much wants to have some sort of an event with faculty and emeriti faculty and the interim president or whoever is on campus. Or both.
Louise, do you see that as like a panel
No,
situation, or like a reception, or
just kind of, coffee in the morning after breakfast or whatever, sometime in the afternoon with some wine. I don't care, but just sort of a reception so that we can meet these people, because in one way or another we've met every president there's been. So
okay.
And we're thinking
and the faculty are
conversation and sharing.
Yeah, conversation and share.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's enough said about that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, I think that maybe we can close on the brainstorming for now. I will update this document and share it with all of the reunion volunteers. So that way, if you have any ideas, we're going to hang up and then 5 ideas are going to come to you, of course. Jot them down. We don't have to wait until the next meeting next month for you to share those. Feel free to just share them with me and I'll keep a running list of things in the document. So let me sort of switch gears and go to a couple of reminders. So originally, I had sent out a form for folks to sort of identify their meeting day and time preferences. And I've gotten feedback from the group, so I'm switching gears. Rather than doing sort of general preferences, what we're going to do is for each month, I am going to send out a Doodle Poll via email. Doodle is a calendaring website where basically I'll identify a week of day and time opportunities that Shannon and myself and Brooke and Jill are available. And I'll plug those into Doodle, and then you'll go in and you'll just click to mark which days and times you're available. I'll look for the day and time where the most volunteers are available, and then that's when we'll schedule the meeting. That way we can try to include as many folks as possible. Obviously, it's a big group. It's impossible to get everyone available at the same day and time every month. But I just want to try to be as inclusive as possible. So following this meeting, I will resend the Doodle Poll for our November meeting. If you haven't already filled it out, if you can it takes 30 seconds to click on the times when you're available. And then as soon as I get a little bit more participation in that, I'll pick a meeting time and I'll share that with the group. My next reminder is if you haven't completed your confidentiality agreement, please do so. I think almost everybody, we only have like 4 or 5 folks who haven't. So if that's you, go ahead and fill that out. I'll send a link in my email as well. And then just the other forms that we've provided to provide feedback for. I feel like these brainstorming sessions, I don't know that you really need to do it in the formal way where you click on the link and go to the little online form and tell me your ideas. I feel like that's there for folks who maybe don't want to speak up in the group, but obviously this group didn't have much of an issue with that, which is wonderful. And then we do have the class gift designation that Shannon talked a lot about in our meeting last month. And so if your reunion class has identified what your gift designation would be, you can just send me an email. You can fill out the form that I created. However you want to inform us of that, that'll be helpful as we start putting together the class giving web pages for everyone to utilize for donations for reunion classes. So those are my reminders. We have 3 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or comments real quick before we jump off at 11?
I want to say thank you.
Thank you. You're
Yes.
welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. We had so many more people join today than I thought. So thank you so much. It's great to see you all. And Sam, thanks for joining. Sumesh, great to see you. Everyone, have a good rest of your week, and I'll be in touch probably the end of this week, beginning of next week with the recording, as well as some links to these things that I keep reminding you all about.
Thank you, Leslie.
Bye,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.